think we're getting to the point where it's overdue for Michael Jordan to Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen, I was a big Scottie Pippen guy as a player. His versatility, his skill, I loved him as a player. But as a retired guy, he has just been involved in like way too many statements. And like you said, like one time he'll say something negative about Jordan, let another month pass, and he'll say something positive. Same thing with LeBron. Like he'll say LeBron's great, and then he'll say I was the LeBron before LeBron. Like he's just this wild, like pathetic guy starving for attention, and he'll say or do anything to get that and to keep that. Maybe he's troubled by his ex-wife banging guys half his age. That can get under your skin a bit. It's okay. We understand.
This has been going around last couple of weeks. Will Lee is losing his mind over it. And I want to have my take, and then I want you to respond. We'll get into a little bit there before we move on. Okay? So, as you can see, how I interpreted it and how I came across it is I believe it was just a blanket statement made by Scottie Pippen in his book, right? First, saying that, hey, back in the day, man, scorekeepers used to fabricate Michael Jordan stats, okay? And I think a lot of people overlooked it because it's like it's Scottie, every once in a while he will say something negative about Jordan. Then he may come back and recant it or whatever, or not. So now, recently, there was a one of the top main NBA analysts, okay, and help me out, not a statistician, but
no. My understanding, I forget the guy's name in the team, but he runs like an analytics department for a team in the NBA currently, is my understanding of it. And apparently, he decided to sort of take a deep dive into the films and kind of do his own analysis of this.
Yeah, now he started with Michael Jordan, and he went specifically to the year that Scottie kind of referenced, which was his Defensive Player of the Year award year.
The 87-88 campaign.
87-87 year. He led the league in scoring, and he won Defensive Player of the Year. One of Jordan's prime, accomplishments. Okay? Not to topple those 6 rings, okay? But we'll get to that in a little bit. So, and what happens is, what the first thing that guy caught was his stats were much, much better at home than it was on the road. And the reason for that was, and it's not the same now. So back in the day, they used to have, every team has its own, statisticians, and then they run their own stats, and they're able to pencil it in. And also the thing about it is all 50-50 calls, all the, like Scottie made a couple references in his book where he said, I would tip the ball away. Okay, I would tip the ball away from the guy, and then the ball would be rolling, and then MJ would pick it up, and they would give MJ the steal. Okay, so this guy,
I've always felt that is the definition of the steal, because a deflected ball where possession is not secured is a deflection, and it only becomes a turnover when somebody on your team secures the basketball,
right?
Secures possession. So I read that, and I felt a little weird about that. I'm like, well, that is the key to a steal. Somebody secured possession.
But that's not the rule, right?
Well, fuck the rule. The rule.
So the rule and how it is now, like whoever led the league in steals to this year and whatever, since the new commissioner came in and kind of took more control and charge of how stats are kept in record and recorded. It's just that it's the person that who creates the turnover, not kind of finish it or completes it. You know what I mean? And so but that's just one small piece. That's not all of the steals. But basically the steals, they were adding steals as well. Like there were many cases where Jordan would have more steals than the other team would have total turnovers. You know what I mean? Like there would be things like that. So they were just adding stats to Michael Jordan. Now, okay, he also, after that was just a year, but he also went on and he found more and more information and where that happened throughout Jordan's career on the defensive side and with steals and blocks, things like that. Of course, not with points or whatever, or they didn't doctor any wins or anything like that. But we're just talking about this stuff like that, rebounds they did. And then he went further into that era, and there was John Stockton has been his assist. You know what I mean? Those that been heavily doctored, yeah, and other things like that. And the thing is, when the new commissioner came in, with the commissioner after what was his name?
David Stern.
David Stern.
Well, it would be Adam Silver, the current commissioner.
Yeah. So after David Stern, so Silver came in and kind of, that was his first thing he did. So I don't know if he knew about this or if this was a known thing in the league, which now everybody's saying it was, okay, and just not made public. But that was one of the first initiatives he had, was to take control and take charge and change the way that stats are recorded. So this does not happen anymore. It has not happened. And this main guy who did it, he led the charge in his team, he actually did some numbers on current guys. You know what I mean? Like, for example, Memphis, they thought that the Memphis center, his blocks,
Jaren Jackson,
they thought that his blocks may have been doctored, but they weren't. They were all accounted for.
Okay.
Now, all that being said, okay, my thing is, I've always, and Pink knows, I've always been on the side where I just don't think those guys from the 90s were that good. I just don't, okay? I don't think the guys that Jordan played against were that good. I didn't think Jordan was that good. When I say that good, not the GOAT, not as good as everyone says he is. And the only thing I ever had was my two eyes to see. The stats didn't back me up. The wins didn't back me up. And that's all I could see was I could see. I saw the series where they had to take Jordan off of Gary Payton, who was not some great offensive player. Gary Payton was destroying him. They had to take him off and put Scottie Pippen on him, and that's what really won them the series. And watching all this other stuff, I can watch that and see it, and it happened, and I know it happened, but it didn't matter because I didn't have anything to back up my argument. So my arguments always sounded ridiculous. So today, when these things come out, I feel vindicated. I feel like, damn, I'm not a crazy person, because the world feels MJ is like the undisputed GOAT. But it's just really not a fucking deal. It's like it's not I'm not on a victory tour. That's why I'm not on social media saying, we got him. He's a fraud. It's not like the cat in the bag. It's just something to where if you were on that side of the argument like me, it's just something you just say, yeah, I knew it all along and you guys didn't. But that's kind of it. That's kind of where it goes, because in the end, you're not going to you can't take the winning away. He won 6 championships. He dominated his era. He was a great scorer, great athlete. Okay, none of that stuff you can take away. So that's my side. That's my take.
Yeah. My take was, I think we're getting to the point where it's overdue for Michael Jordan to kill Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen, I was a big Scottie Pippen guy as a player. His versatility, his skill, I loved him as a player. But as a retired guy, he has just been involved in like way too many horseshit statements. And like you said, like one time he'll say something negative about Jordan, let another month pass, and he'll say something positive. Same thing with LeBron. Like he'll say LeBron's great, and then he'll say I was the LeBron before LeBron. Like he's just this wild, like pathetic guy starving for attention, and he'll say or do anything to get that and to keep that. Maybe he's troubled by his ex-wife banging guys half his age. That could get under your skin a bit. It's okay. We understand. But you focus on maybe banging some new girls and less on making stupid statements that are just controversy for nothing. Now, I'm not a stats guy.
Mm-hmm.
Never really have been a big stats guy. I'm a watch it, feel it, live it type of guy, and like a championships guy. And so this doesn't impact how I regard Jordan at all. But I also, the thing that I genuinely believe at this point in time, there's an enormous amount of people that regard LeBron James as the GOAT. There's a significant amount of people that feel that way about Jordan. And there's probably a smattering of people that might make an argument for somebody else. So I'm just so past the fact that we have to kind of have this non-existent fight every time these guys do anything or a story pops off about either one. It's just largely irrelevant. And I mean, to me, LeBron's on the cusp of being irrelevant as an active NBA guy. He's still in the league. He still plays well, but he's not. The league doesn't revolve around him anymore. It did for a long time, rightly so. But let's just live more in the moment and stop worrying about what's said and dug up from 30 or 40 years ago. At this point,
it is interesting though.
Not really.
It's
I mean,
it's weird because it doesn't matter.
Have you ever kept stats though?
Yeah, yeah.
Like I'll admit, I
in games,
yeah,
being a stat keeper.
Yeah. I'm lenient on certain things. I'm lenient on assists for sure. I will credit an assist not by some rule in a rule book, but did that pass create the basket? And again, I don't care if the guy took 2, 3, 4 dribbles or whatever. If that pass broke the defense down and created the basket, that's an assist. I'm going to grant it. I think that anybody who's keeping stats, there is some inherent bias in what you're viewing, and it's rooted in how you see the game. I'm like a pass-first guy. I love passes, and I'm going to be a little bit more biased on that. And I mentioned earlier in this piece, I have a certain definition of a steal, because to me it doesn't happen until possession is secured. And so I'm never going to credit a guy deflecting a ball. I'll credit him with a deflection, but not a steal. Because again, if I bat the ball away from you and somebody on your team gets it and hits a three because we're out of position, that's not a steal. I haven't done anything. I look at it as whatever it is.
But then you're almost getting into like two different sports then, because it's like, because if they've changed it to the way that whatever the NBA is supposed to be now,
right,
then these guys are at a again. I know I'm in a small camp that doesn't believe these guys are as good as they. I've never been a John Stockton guy. I just think I can freestyle 20 guys, 20-point guards I believe were a lot better. I just saw him play. I just think he didn't. And they talking about thousands of assists that just shouldn't have been assists for him. If you take those away and he's not the all-time assist leader, then what is John? John is just a guy who lost a lot. But because he's the all-time assist leader, he's given that, you know what I mean? He's given that and he's able to be put above all of these other guys. He just doesn't belong over. John Stockton just was not that good. He just wasn't. And he had some pick and pops. He passed to Carl, but he didn't pass to Carl 5,000 fucking times like that. You know what I mean?
He might have it. Very structured offense.
Yeah.
It doesn't like that. John Stockton being the assist leader has nothing to do with my evaluation of John Stockton. And I hated the Jazz. I hated John Stockton when he was a player. The older I got, the more I learned, basketball. I do have respect for his accomplishments and kind of the uniqueness of his career, as it were.
See, accomplishments. But what if it's not supposed to be an accomplishment? Correction, it's not supposed to be an accomplishment. You see what I'm saying? It's not.
I don't. When I'm looking at
that's the only one he has.
But I'm not looking at that. When I'm using the term accomplishments, I'm saying that this is a guy that played for about 2 decades, was on consistently winning teams, played, a huge majority of his team's games, was available. And again, he was a tough son of a bitch. He got where he wanted to get on the floor. He executed his team's offense at a high level for 2 decades. That's what I look at. I'm not looking at, were 2 or 3,000 assists fudged by a scorekeeper in Utah. Like, that's not going to change how I view John Stockton. And I agree with you. I mean, there's a whole bunch of guards I would take in front of him if I'm picking a team. But I'm comfortable in saying he's a fantastic player, great career, respect that. Even though, again, while he was playing, hated him, wanted him to get hurt every week. Like, he was not my guy. But, like, I'll respect a man's career if it's worthy of that. And it's not connected to being the all-time assist leader. It's just connected to 2 decades of pretty damn high-level play.
Yeah, I just, for that purpose, though, I kind of wish, like, Adam just didn't mess with it then. Because, then maybe LeBron does win a couple Defensive Player of the Year awards if the guys in Cleveland, Miami, and L.A. could add 10 steals.
Well, let's go. All right, well, I'm glad you mentioned that because, like, for me, whether he was the defensive player or not, Miami Heat LeBron James was the best defensive player on the planet. And I don't care about your awards. That man could lock up damn near any basketball player. He locked up KD in that era. He locked up MVP Derrick Rose in that era. He locked people up.